Hi everyone, my name is Craig, and in this short video, I'm going to walk you through a set breakdown of an interview I got to direct with former NFL head coach Tony Dungy. For this interview, it was just myself and one production assistant, shouts out at Jesse Callentine, that were conducting the interview. Due to COVID restrictions, we had to limit our team size, and we had to shoot on location at a small Airbnb. I wasn't sure what the location would look like that we were shooting in, and it turned out to be less than ideal. This is why you need to come prepared for any scenario. Almost the entire east side wall was made out of glass, so it was nearly impossible to cut out the amount of light that was needed to control the spill from the windows, so we decided to embrace the natural light look. I started by turning off all overhead lights. Then I took a C-stand and clamped a sound blanket to the stand to cut out a portion of light from the window nearest to the talent, so I could control the window spill on the three of our talent. I lit the space with an aperture 120D at 100% output. I put the lantern on and pointed it slightly up towards the white ceiling, and I essentially used the ceiling as a second layer of diffusion to give a nice, even, soft light over the talent. After that, I felt that Tony's side was a bit darker than I would have liked, so I set up an aperture HR627S, which is their spot model, to give him a bit of fill light, and that's all that we did for lighting. For cameras, we used one Sony a7S III and two Sony a7 IIIs. I knew that the majority of this edit would be on Tony's angle, so I set up the a7S III on Tony on the Condor Blue cage. I used a Sony 85mm f1.8 lens and shot it at an aperture of 2.8 with autofocus tracking turned on. With both of the a7 IIIs, I attached an Atomos Ninja 5 recorder so we could monitor exposure more easily, and to get around the Sony a7 III's 30-minute record limit to SD cards. For the master angle, I shot on a Sony 24-70 f4 at 24mm and an aperture of 5.6. For the final angle, we had a two-shot of our two interviewers, shot on a Sony 70-200 f2.8, but we shot it at 85mm at an aperture of 3.5. Depending on whoever was talking, I would frame up the shot for that interviewer. For sound, we first lapelled all three of our talent. We used two Rode wireless Go's going directly into one of the Sony a7 IIIs and the S3. For our final talent, we placed a Zoom H1 recorder in its pocket and recorded to a microSD card. We also had two boom poles overhead in an XY pattern going into a Zoom H6. This means we utilized the rejection region of each of the boom mics to minimize sound bleed from the talent that the mics were not pointing at. The boom for our interviewers was placed at an equal distance between the two since we didn't have access to a third boom pole on set. So we made do with one boom pole for the two of them, which isn't ideal, but we made it work. I also had a Deity D3 Pro on the master angle for the best possible reference audio and as a built-in third backup if for some reason all else audio failed. Overall, this is a pretty standard setup for a 2 to 3 person interview. Ideally, I would have liked to have maybe one more camera angle so that I didn't have to spend time operating that two-shot that I had to operate, but we just made do with what we had. If you like this breakdown, go ahead and leave a like down below and let me know in the comments if you learned something new. If you like this style of video, I would be happy to do more of these breakdowns in the future. Also, if you haven't subscribed, take a second to do that before you leave. Much love.